Hello everybody and welcome to Speed Run Review, my new series where I take 5 games per episode and I do a super quick review of them from across whatever generation, and I give my quick opinions on them. So what you think? What do you like of that, huh? Up first on the list is Resogun for the PlayStation 4, a very innovative title that has now become one of my favorites on the PlayStation 4. It was a title release that is a space shooter, a reboot of a long since dying franchise that has seen many installments. Unlike games like Rambo, that horrible video game from I think 2014, that was a reboot of on-rails shooters that just made you wish someone had never even tried to bring it back. This is like a complete graphic improvement, complete gameplay improvement of space shooters from the 80s arcade games. It's almost like playing an arcade game in your home, only instead of it being like that's the whole purpose of consoles is to bring the fun of arcades into the fucking home, this just really wants to be like the old days. So I would say if you're an 80s arcade gamer who used to play old games like Defender and the R-Type when you were a kid or whatever, this game is perfect for you. Or if you are a new gamer looking for something different, something you haven't seen, get Resogun. My only real complaints of the game are that it's really short, with only like 6 levels total, and the arcade mode being able to be beaten in maybe 2 hours. But the game is relatively cheap. I believe it is $15 on PlayStation Store at this particular moment. And the DLC there are DLC that actually give you new modes for relatively cheap as well, like $5 for 2 whole modes. So yeah, if this is what you're into, if you like what you see here, then I would absolutely recommend this game, and my personal rating would be a solid 8 out of 10. Next up on the list is Rainbow Six Siege, a game that has very many emotions elicited in my nether regions. In other words, I like the game, but I absolutely hate it. I'm a longtime fan of the Rainbow Six franchise in general. In fact, I love Tom Clancy games. They're always realistic, fun, and futuristic, or just overall, they really make you feel like you're an actual soldier on an actual mission. However, a lot of that was due to the wonderful single-player campaigns that it had, a lot of the really good single-player features, and the good use of enemy AI. This game feels like it is missing something big. Without that feature, it feels like the multiplayer is just kind of there. And if you don't have friends, the multiplayer on its own just by going into a lobby is complete ass. No one really can cooperate together. People, because there's friendly fire on, will troll and shoot you in the back sometimes. And when you do want to play by yourself on the terrorist hunt modes, they are literally so hard because they are all designed to be played by 5 operatives or more, that it doesn't matter what difficulty you play on, you can almost never win because it's not designed to be beaten by just you. And that experience really cripples the game, especially if you are a gamer who's antisocial and does not like to make friends. Look another direction, because this game will disappoint you at every corner. But if you're willing to put that aside and look for a game that still retains that difficulty that the Rainbow Six games are known for, you might still be able to get a lot of enjoyment out of this game. I would also like to mention that some of the visuals in the game are actually a little subpar, particularly on this plane mission where you have the entire runway and what's in the background to look at. It looks like something out of a PlayStation 2 game. This whole game screams like it is missing something major. Like it was rushed out the door without a whole lot of thought put into it. Even the intro to the game baits more content, a single-player campaign, with this really well-animated woman who looks to be like your manager or some kind of elected official, someone of extreme importance, telling you that your team is all that stands between whatever country you represent and complete terrorist anarchy. But the only terrorist anarchy there is to find are the 12-year-olds in the lobbies that shoot you in the back. The people who rage and freak out because you accidentally shot them because you turned the corner and there they were. So, overall, the game has a lot of flaws and a lot of things that hold it back. I did enjoy the way the characters work. There's a lot of really cool characters for both the attackers and defenders. But another problem that comes up when you go to the multiplayer is, again, if you work your ass off for the renown to unlock a character, but you only have like one character in the beginning of the game, if some asshole chooses that character before you get a chance to, then you don't get to use that character anymore. So you can end up you'll have to stack up 1,000 characters just to maybe get one that you kind of sort of like for the lobby, which overall really hurts my experience with this game. For me, I had to rate it a 7 out of 10 because it seemed like it was missing a lot of content, but does have a lot of promise if you can somehow manage to get past all of that and are a huge multiplayer gamer with lots of friends and loves cooperative teamwork. Final Fantasy VII, originally released for the PlayStation 1. There is nowhere I can even begin with how much I love this game. It's sad to me, really, that it hasn't aged a little bit better. Story-wise, the game is fantastic, with this amazing story and character development between your 6 to about 8 characters if you find all of the secret ones, where you will grow to really love and care for these characters over the 40 to 80 hours you spend, depending on if you want to do all of the bonus content there is to it. Unfortunately, if you are a more modern-day gamer, you probably won't be able to appreciate the game much at all. The graphics are very subpar, if that's assuming you own a PlayStation 1 in order to play the original copy of it. If you own a PlayStation 4 or a PC, they have the Final Fantasy VII kind of sort of remastered edition, where they smoothed out some of the polygons on the characters, but their graphics are obviously still complete ass compared to what the standards of today are. But for its time, it was the most graphically impressive game in the world, being the first Final Fantasy game to diverge from the European style that the first 6 games in the series had. This game is my favorite game probably ever made. Well, this series is definitely my favorite series. This game, though, there's certain Final Fantasies I like better, but only for minor reasons. When it really comes down to it, about which game has the best battle system, the best story, overall, you always have to end up giving it to Final Fantasy VII. Whether or not you like one more or less, in the end, these characters are the easiest to relate to for the standard Western American gamer. I absolutely adore this game. It's a turn-based RPG for those who don't know, and it is still widely loved and the only PlayStation 1 game to even have any kind of release on the PlayStation 4. It's simply a masterpiece, but it's one that has not aged very well due to its graphic infidelity. You have to be a real nostalgic kind of person and able to really appreciate the game, and you have to give it a lot of leeway, as there's no voice acting, you have to read everything. And in other words, if you're a 12-year-old kid who is very impatient and wants a first-person shooter, or a lot of action and gore, you're gonna be disappointed, because as you can see from this here, the gameplay is completely turn-based, slow, and encourages you to take your time more but for those of us who know, and for its time, this game was the best game on the PlayStation 1 and one of the best games ever made. It was the selling point. The reason the PlayStation 1 was able to beat out the Nintendo 64 was almost single-handedly because of Square Enix, or Squaresoft at the time, making games for the PlayStation 1. So for my final verdict, in this short amount of time I have to go into depth about this game, is a 10 out of 10. From me personally. It has its flaws, and it is not perfect, but I have never played a game that has meant more to me than the Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 1. And that experience is something that I have to give a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, because I don't know that I will ever play a game that has been able to touch me as deeply as the Final Fantasy series. As a child born in 1997, a 90s child raised on the PlayStation 1, there are a lot of games that I obviously didn't get to experience. Anything from 1985 to 1997 I probably didn't play, which are a shit ton of Nintendo titles that deserve to be recognized. For the longest time, I would have never even known about some of these games. Mega Man, Mario, Legend of Zelda. Those were all just like games I considered old news, things that no one even talked about anymore, that didn't deserve the time of day. And boy was I wrong. Thank God for Capcom releasing the Mega Man Legacy Collection for the PlayStation 4. This gave me the chance to play the first through 6th Mega Man games, just like they are on the NES, and I am so happy I got the chance to, because Mega Man has now become my favorite platformer of all time, and I don't like platformers that much, but this one really speaks to me. I love the way this game plays, and for its time, I think it is completely amazing, the amount of weapons and strategy you have to actually implement to beat the levels. And the music score. Just listen to this. Yeah, hell yeah. In fact, that is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, the Mega Man soundtracks. Almost better than the Final Fantasy soundtracks, which happen to be my all-time favorite soundtracks. Part of what makes them so beautiful, might I add, onto the part of the Final Fantasy VII speed review. Anyway, all that aside, the biggest and best part about this Legacy Collection, 15 bucks. Do you know how much it would cost me in order to go out and get an NES and even one of the Mega Man games? I'd have to have at least anywhere from $80 to $100 just to be able to play a single Mega Man game. But because of PlayStation 4 and Capcom, 15 bucks, 6 games. It's amazing to me. I now have gotten to experience retro gaming, and because of this very collection, I went out and got a Retron console to play SNES and NES games, and have since picked up Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt for the NES, and wish to expand my library of games into any genre, into any platform, into any console. I will never discriminate anymore because I have seen Mega Man. And I understand now that it doesn't matter what time a game comes out or how a game looks. It's how a game makes you feel. And Mega Man makes me feel like a badass. My final rating for Mega Man would be the Legacy Collection is a 9 out of 10 for the amazing wealth of content for such the amazing old games there are. The only reason it doesn't get a 10 out of 10 is really no good reason at all, other than the fact that most of these games are pretty difficult, and you probably won't. They're more of a collector's item than anything you'd actually put a whole lot of time into. But that's just me being prejudiced. So 9 out of 10 could very well be a 10 out of 10 if I wasn't an asshole. CD Projekt Red's The Witcher. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt to be exact. Now, here's a little interesting thing about this game. It is actually not my most favorite game in the world. Now, don't shoot me just yet. This game is absolutely Game of the Year 2015. I won't deny it, because the story is amazing, and the gameplay is actually fun in theory, and probably more fun to others than me, which is where I have the issues with it. I simply did not find the combat in The Witcher to be as fun as other people did. Granted, they go out of their way to give you options to make it as fun as possible, with putting oils on your weapons and poisons, and finding these master-crafted amazing swords. But my problem in the game comes from the fact that the only real weapons you can use are swords. They have other weapons like axes and stuff, but you can't actually use oils and poisons and stuff on them, making them almost useless, because most of the strategy in the game relies on using potions and poisons and oils in order to make your weapons the best, in order to fit the situation. So I ended up finding the combat to be relatively repetitive and not that interesting. But it definitely does everything in its power to be the best game of the year. And with as much content as there is, as good as the story is, as amazing as the graphics are, and as well as the game runs, I mean, I can't deny it. Even if I don't like the combat, I can't find a game this year that is better. Fallout 4 is shitty, in my opinion, compared to this game. Fallout 4 did not live up to my expectations at all, whereas Witcher had no expectations to live up to, and blew them pretty much all out of the water. Just because the combat's not my thing, does not mean that this game deserves any kind of criticism. Because I am sure there are people who would swear by the combat, and when you just look at how in-depth it is, and how much effort the developers put into it, it's obvious to me that it's good. It's supposed to be a lot more fun than it really is for me, which sucks, because I really want to love this game more than I do. And when you get, considering how much shit they jam-pack into this case, just looking at it, they give you the original soundtrack, which you ironically can't play in the PlayStation 4 because it doesn't do CDs for some reason, because it's a piece of shit compared to its older consoles. But anyway, and a map of the wonderful places to visit, a personal thank you letter, the gaming manual, a little book on the Witcher universe, previous deeds, all kinds of things, just everything they could jam pack at you. Free DLC, cheap paid DLC, quick price drops. It is obvious that they are very proud of their game and have done everything in their power to make it as readily available to the public as possible. Before Bethesda was my favorite company, after playing this game and seeing just how much CD Projekt Red loves their game, I am now the biggest fans of their work and the biggest fan of their company. I think every company should strive do their business the way CD Projekt Red does. So, if I were to rate the game on personal opinion, I would have given it an 8 out of 10, just simply because the combat really didn't do it for me. But if I really just rated it based on how good it actually is, and how it deserves to be rated just based on the monsters, the lore, and the story, it's a 10 out of 10. An easy 10 out of 10 for anyone else except me. I'm the only person in the world who this combat doesn't work for, I swear to God. Don't let my opinion discourage you. Buy this game. It is worth every dollar of whatever asking price they ask of you. So that was my speedrun review video. I hope you guys liked it because I have the plans to make more of them. If you enjoyed, please leave a like button and your views say it all. I will see you guys on my next video of whatever it is.